Welcome to another episode of Cadence Fishing TV. And we're up in the northeast with our brand ambassador, Paul Kozyra. Good to see you again, Paul.
Yeah, welcome, James, yeah.
And this is a really special day for me. It's the first time I've fished the Swale, and we've been given special permission to fish at Swaleside Caravan Park, just outside Thirsk. It's normally residents only, but we're hoping that the 2 pegs we've been allocated are really going to show the Swale in a perfect light.
I hope you're right there, James, yeah. And as you say, neutral venue for me, so it evens the board a bit.
Yeah.
And I am surprised you've never fished a Swale before, because it's a popular match venue.
Well,
these
yeah,
days,
I think since the advent of Riverfest, the various legs that you've had here have been really well attended, and a lot of my mates have fished it and really enjoyed it, so I'll definitely be applying for next year. Anyway, in the interest of a fair match, I know you like to have your pound bet.
I do, yeah.
Let's draw the peg. So I'm going to let you draw out the bag, peg 1 or peg 2.
Right, here goes.
No looking in the bag, all right?
No. Peg 1.
Peg 1. So you're on the upstream peg.
I'm on the upstream peg.
Great then, let's get stuck in.
Okay, my friend, we'll have a go, yep.
Well, Paul, this is the famous peg 1.
It is, James, yeah.
I'll tell you what, both pegs look really fishy.
I've been told they are very fishy, James,
Yeah. And your peg here seems a bit wider and deeper than my peg, and certainly a bit longer.
Yeah, it's still quite shallow, and you can see just with the boils there's streamer weed on the main flow line, which is 3/4 of the way across. It's probably only 3 foot 6 deep.
Yeah.
Even though yours is shallower, of course. So I think my line of attack is going to be just this side of the streamer weed. I'm going to ignore the bushes and the trees at the far bank for now, because I find on the Swale that the chub and the barbel always tend to live down the middle for some strange reason.
Yeah.
And the bushes are there for the odd lobworm or cheese or meat attack at some point.
Well, Andrew, the camp manager, he'd said that the main shoulder fish tends to lie between the 2 pegs.
Right.
So I think it'll be interesting to see where we catch the fish in our pegs.
So have you been doing your homework?
Yeah, come on, let's go and have a look at my peg.
We'll go and have a look at yours then, yeah.
So this is my peg, Paul.
Tight, isn't it?
It is a bit tight, and you can see, like you, I've got streamer weed over there, and then it's kind of coming across, and the peg shallows up right down my peg. And I've got these overhanging trees here.
It's just restricting your view, isn't it? But
yeah, but I mean, what a cracking looking peg, you know?
It is.
If you drew this in a match, you'd run to it, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely, on the Swale, definitely. And so, I can tell it's shallower than mine, because you can actually see the streamer weed breaking surface, can't you?
I'm going to try and sort of feed in front of me as high up as I can. Fish a small waggler and a stick. And I've also set up a lead rod just in case the peg's a bit too tight, and I can consider fishing that as well.
I agree with you there,
Right then, so I think it's going to take you about a minute to get back to your peg.
I know what's coming here.
So
yeah.
I'm going to shout the all in, all right?
All right then. Yeah, whenever you want. Yeah.
All the best, mate.
Okay. Good luck.
Well, whenever you're fishing a venue or a peg on a venue that you're not familiar with, it always pays to take some time and really have a good look at the peg and think about where the fish might be hiding and prepared to feed. And one good tip I always think about when I'm chub fishing on a small river like this is I'll often not actually fish to start with. I know you're really excited to get fishing and get stuck in, but I quite often like to just start by feeding, and I'll even do that in a match sometimes, just feed for 10 minutes. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm just going to regularly introduce small amounts of hempen casters, and I can see where they're going, where they're like to be landing, and I'll also feed a bit of bait around the peg as well to maybe try and draw some fish into that main channel and hopefully the main area where I'm going to catch. The main reason for doing this is that what it's hopefully going to do is draw some fish into the area and also start them feeding confidently. Quite often on smaller rivers like this, particularly shallow pegs, you might catch a few early fish and then find that it's almost like they disappear. They haven't disappeared, they've just wised up. So my main thinking is to just gradually introduce some feed and get the fish feeding. A couple of issues I've been thinking about whilst I've been setting up and started feeding on this peg is, one, there's quite a breeze blowing around and that might make presentation difficult, so that's another reason for not feeding too far out. Hopefully I'll be able to draw the fish on quite a close line, and that'll definitely help me present the bait better. And the other issue is the shade on the water. You'll notice there's some areas of the swim that have got shade and some that are in the direct sunlight, and that can be really critical as well on a shallow peg like this. Often you'll find that you'll catch the fish in the shaded areas. So it's something to bear in mind and something to think about as the day progresses. As the sun swings round in the sky, we might find that change. But certainly at the moment, that shady area at the bottom of my peg looks really good. Right then, I can't wait any longer. Well, I had a small dace almost straight away, and then probably a 10-minute period with no bites, and that's my first proper fish. And it's a lovely chub. It's got to be £2. Absolutely beautiful. Well, I started on a waggler and didn't have any bites, so I switched over to this light stick float, and I've spent quite a bit of time adjusting the rig, but I basically had that first chub right down my peg, almost where I couldn't see, in that slack water, just in the shade. So as we thought, that shadow might be key today. Let's hope we catch some more.
We've been fishing an hour now, a good hour, and as we chub, they do take a while to come onto the feed. It's a bit what we call up here lingy today, peat colour, quite dark, so I'm feeding maggot in with my casters. I'm fishing double caster on the hook and double maggot. Now, a couple of minutes ago, I had my first bite right down the bottom end of the swim, where Andrew, the park manager, said they actually live. And just a small one, just to get us going, about £2. The bite was a very gentle bite. I actually thought I'd caught the bottom and it was dragging under. But when I struck, obviously met with solid resistance, and the end result was that chub which you saw on video earlier. The wind, quite strong, and although when you look on the film it doesn't look much at all because you can't see the ripple on the water, but it's very gusty and it keeps lifting the line off the water, although presentation can be achieved quite simply, really. So we're quite lucky today to be surrounded by trees and of course these static caravans behind me. I caught the chub on the stick. I'm now on the waggler because this wind has turned to come downstream, so the waggler's giving me better presentation. I've just changed to the stick from the waggler. I don't believe it's come off. One of the reasons you lose a fish. Don't know whether you can spot that. That's why we lost that. Maggot folded over the hook. Now, that's a bit disappointing because I've been building this swim up for a good hour and a half plus. It's taken me all that time. I was just holding it back right at the bottom of the swim, which is a tactic that we use very regularly on this river, and the chub tend to grab it just as that bait flicks up off the bottom, which is what's happened there. But unfortunate, and every angler will know this, when that maggot wraps around the hook, that hook penetration just isn't quite good enough. Very disappointing, but at least we know there's a fish there, or there was a fish there, and let's hope his brothers and sisters are there too. I'm going to put a fresh hook on. There's no harm in having a nice new sharp hook on. Right, we'll have another go at that one then. As you can see, we're getting into autumn now. It's October. Leaves are starting to fall off the trees. We've got a gusty wind that's giving presentation and casting a problem every now and again, but the venue we're fishing today is surrounded by trees, and we've got the cover of those nice big static caravans behind us, so I can't complain, even though we will, because we always do as river anglers. And now I've got sunlight in my eyes I can hardly see. But we're just easing the float through now at the bottom of the swim, which is where I've got the feeling that these chub are hanging out at the moment. Hoping for a bite, but I think it'll be another good 10 or 15 minutes after losing that chub before I get one, realistically. And that's just how it is. With chub, they seem to scatter when one of their friends is hooked and lost. I'm feeding just maggot now. I've stopped feeding castor and hemp. The water is a very dark peaty colour, and I've got a feeling that probably maggot is going to be the best bait today, even though I'm a very big fan of castor and hemp, and I'll probably be going back on that a bit later if we can start getting a few lined up, because the double caster tends to pick better fish out. I'm fishing probably about 3 to 4 inches off the bottom. I was fishing the waggler earlier, dragging that through the bottom on the deck. I've not had a bite on the waggler. I've had 3 fish on the stick so far, and I've only got the one out, which is unusual for me, but that's life. That's chub fishing. What I tend to do is, like you've seen in past, we put a good handful of maggots in, and then I follow it up with just a few. The float is going right in the middle of the first lot of maggots, and hopefully them chub see that big ball of maggots heading towards them, and they'll take mine. If they don't, now I'm down near the bottom of the swim, I'm holding it back a little bit, and that gives that chance for those few maggots that went in just after it to catch up with my float. And the 3 bites I've had have been as I've been holding back. So we've got two little scenarios going on there. One is holding back, the bait's waving about in the current. That could be, and probably more than likely, is what's getting me the bites. Or the other one is, like we've done on the still waters in the past with these chub, is just that small pinch of maggots, that second lot, where the chub come crashing through that first ball of maggots, and as you're holding back, obviously them few maggots are catching up with your hook bait. Ah, this is the life. It's getting some pressure, is this one. I've got to watch that stream of weed. Typical chub fight, just gently plodding along, always a good sign because it usually means it's a decent fish. Same thing again. I got that bite as I held back, and in my opinion, just as those half a dozen maggots caught up with me hook bait. Oh no, there's a problem. Keep out the edge. It looks a good one. Oof. One thing about the chub, they like to find you in the edge or under your keep net, and that's a scary time. Right, we're still fighting this chub, and my 14-foot match number 2, doing the usual, and I've had loads of chub on it this season. Absolutely brilliant action on it. We've got quite a strong flow, and the rod is just progressively getting more power. I can feel it coming down right down to the butt. And this new prototype reel that James gave me this morning, that is also impressing me for such a, well, I won't say cheap reel, but really good value reel apparently. And here we come, ready for netting, I hope. Bit of line out. Oh, and there's a chub expert. We can all do it. I'm a bit far off the water, I'm bringing him up. That's where this rod comes in nice, it's just cushioning it lovely. Here we go. What a fish. What a fish. Wow, that is an amazing, amazing fish. There's not a mark on it. Looks like he's never seen a hook before. Careful with it, because we're a distance away. And there you go. That's what we've come here for today. A wonderful, wonderful swale chub. Right, I'll unhook him and we'll have him in the net.
Another reason for coming fishing today, apart from fishing such a beautiful river like this, was to test some new reels that we're developing. We've now got our CS10 and CS8 reels in stock, and they're absolutely beautiful reels. Check them out on our website. These are reels that we're going to launch early next year, and as with all tackle development, it's really important to test the products, and by giving them a good workout today on the river, we'll understand if there's any serious faults, and also give chance to really test them out in a fishing environment. We will lab test them as well in the factory, but you can't beat proper product development testing like this. There we go, I managed to trick another one. Just doing exactly what I said, by casting slightly upstream, feeding and pulling my float into the feed. And I've also scaled down a bit, which seems to have made a difference. I started on a 0.14 hook length to a size 15 B711. And I've gone down to 0.12 and a 17. So I'm perhaps risking it a bit if I hook a really big chub or a barbel, but it's definitely got me a couple more bites and a couple more fish. The rod I'm using is the 13-foot CR10 number 3, and you can see it's absolutely perfect for playing good chub like this. There we go. Another chub about £2, they're like peas in a pod. It's always important to fight chub hard, because they really do fight dirty, and if there's any snags in the river, they'll find them. So you need to keep the head up, keep the pressure on, and absolutely push your tackle to the limit. Well, we've taken a quick break from the action pool to have a look at the tackle and rigs that we're using today. We're both using CR10 rods. You've gone for the 14-foot number 2.
Yep.
I've gone for the 13-foot number 3. I guess you've gone for the 14-foot just to help with your control on the stick float?
That's right, where I am, James. I've got a bit of a downstream wind. It's a bit of a wider peg and a longer peg than yours. And I've got no restrictions with bushes or anything, so I find 14 foot, especially on the Swale, is great for controlling your float.
Yeah, it really
it's just
helps.
ideal. Yeah.
I've stuck with 13 just because it's a bit of a parrot cage,
Yeah.
and a longer rod I'd be having trouble with the trees.
Yep.
The prototype reels that we're testing are performing well, well mine are anyway.
Oh yeah, absolutely great, yeah. Great,
Very
no problem.
smooth and powerful.
Yeah.
So tell us a bit about your rig then, you know, break it down. What sort of float are you using, what line, what hooks?
Yeah, well, as always on the Swale, I tend to use a Dave Harrell shallow stick.
Yeah.
In this case, I'm using a 3 number 4. It's only 3.5 foot to 4 foot deep, and downstream wind, although it's gusting a bit, it's quite comfortable to fish. I've got 0.16 reel line, which is pretty standard chubbing stuff for me.
Yeah.
And the shot is just pretty much a shirt button style pattern.
Yeah.
I've gathered 3 at the top and 2 down just below, and that's purely just to get a bit of control when I'm holding back. I tend, it finds, to hold the float a bit better, and it's just strung out number 8s, as you can see, all the way down to a hook length.
Yeah.
And my hook length is an 0.14 should I say, standard affair, to a B520 size 18 in this case, because I'm now using double maggot. If I was using caster, it would be a B520 16.
Yeah.
And although I've hooked 4 chubs so far, I've only got 2 out, and it's no fault of anything really, it's just unfortunate. And you'll see that on the video when it airs. But I feel that, you know, bites are coming a bit slow, so I think when we do go back, I'm going to go 12, I think.
Yeah, well, it's not been easy, has it? We've really had to trick the fish. That's how I found, anyway.
And it's a bit of a Stonebridge situation with the sun shining all day long again.
And what I did was, I had an early chub on an 014 hook length, and I switched to 012, and that seemed to make a really big difference.
Does it? Yeah.
The only problem being, obviously, you're perhaps not in such the driving seat when you hook the fish.
Correct. Yeah.
So I've lost one fish which I think was a barbel, and I've lost a big chub as well.
Yeah.
But I've had 4 or 5 chub around about 2 pounds.
Yeah.
And scaling down for me has definitely worked today. It's interesting what you said about the maggot. I've been loose feeding hempen casters.
Yeah, which I was to start
I've only
with.
had 1 fish on the caster. The other fish I've had on double maggot.
You're right. Yeah.
And a good tip, I don't know about you, Paul, but I always do some floating maggots, any kind of fishing.
Yeah.
And I've used a double maggot for floating maggot, and I think it's maybe just a bit more buoyant.
Yeah.
And perhaps just looks maybe a bit more natural to the fish when you've got
That's right, through the boiling water like it is in your peg, really.
Yeah. So it's interesting that we've both caught on the stick, and actually we've caught on very similar rigs.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm fishing with that's a Drennan 4No. So similar to you, wire stem.
Yeah.
And again, like you, I've got my shot spread out, and also I noticed, like you, I have quite a good distance from my hook to my first dropper. Yeah. And that's around about 1 foot, and I'll vary that depending on how the fish are responding.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons I tend to use a 6-inch hook length, because I can move the shot away, giving me that foot. Or if they're really having it and they're nailing it, then you drop your shot down and you've got a 6-inch hook length, and the float gets buried every time.
On hard days like this, I think it's definitely advisable to keep the dropper shot away from the hook, and hopefully let the bait or the hook bait react more naturally.
Agree totally with you there, James.
All right, then. So I think we'll get stuck back in and perhaps have another hour's fishing, and then have a weigh in.
I'm surprised it's not 10 minutes with you 5 fish and me too. Yeah.
That would be a bit unfair, wouldn't it?
Just a bit, yeah.
Cheers,
we
Paul.
might be fishing till dark, you don't know yet.
Well, this isn't a big chub. I think it's a dace. Yeah, it's a dace. Not massive, but beautiful fish nonetheless. Well, there we go. That one's got to be 3 pound. It's a bit of an old warhorse, that one. It's got a few battle scars on it. Better get him in the net. Well, it's not been the easiest of days, but I think the bright conditions haven't helped. And as with a lot of rivers like the Swale where you're targeting chub, they're obviously congregated in shoals in different swims, and that's always an important thing, to try and do your homework and find out where the chub are likely to be when you're actually fishing. And I think another thing to think about is to be persistent. You know, we've had to really work hard for our chub today, and we've caught some beautiful fish. But if I'd have perhaps just sat here with a feeder, you know, I might have caught 1 fish, I might not have caught anything. And also likewise with the float, we've had to really work at it, change the presentation, change the feeding patterns, change the hook baits in order to keep tricking the odd chub. I'd just love to know how many are in the swim, but I bet you there's a hell of a lot of chub here, and they're just laughing at me most of the time. But that for me is the fantastic challenge about chub fishing. The wind we talked about at the beginning has proved to be difficult. It's a downstream wind, and you've got to get the line behind the float and slow it down to prevent the downstream wind from moving your float unnaturally. And actually all the fish I've caught today have been right down the bottom of where I can fish in this swim. Haven't caught any fish on the feed, which can happen when you're chub fishing. But when you find that's the situation, I just kind of disregard my presentation at the top of the swim, let the float get down to where I want it, where I think there's some fish, and I can control the float and hopefully trick a chub into taking. Holding the float back as well means I can fish a bit over depth and slow the bait down. And that's a tactic that can work really well. Like that, but that's not a chub, feels more like a dace. There we go, another dace. Well, there we go, that's another chub. And I actually scaled down to an 18 hook and a single red maggot. And it's got me another nice fish. I'm just taking my time to make sure I get him out. There's a lot of weed in the peg. I'm having to be really careful with this finer gear to kind of coax them in. That's another beautiful chub. That's another one on the single red maggot, about 2 pounds. Wonder how many Paul's got. Well, I'm catching really quite well now, and you can notice that all of my swim now is in the shade, and I think that's made a real difference just at the end of the session. It's obviously giving the fish a bit more confidence to come out and feed and give us an indication of just exactly how many fish are out there. That's another beautiful chub. Well, that's not a chub, and I think it's another small dace, but just shows how versatile the 13-foot number 3 is. Still got a nice soft tip that cushions the strike and enables you to play smaller fish like that dace. On the chub, it's been absolutely fantastic. The extra power has really helped to control the fish.
Well, Chappie the cameraman's just told me James has got 10 chub now since we had that break. I've had one and I've lost it down the side, so I think fair play to the lad. He's come on my venue really, and he's sorted it. So I'm giving my peg a rest because I can't see for the sun. Keep putting a bit of bait in, and I'm going to have a bit of Pauline's famous coffee. Cheers. Well, it's the all out. James is behind me with a big smile on his face. I don't know what he's got yet, but I've got a feeling it's more than what I've got. Let's have a look. You got those scales ready?
We're ready.
He's checking them for 0 again. Stickler for being accurate.
We got it, Ted. Lump that one, innit?
It is a nice one, yeah.
£6 temple.
Nice one.
It's a beautiful fish.
I'd have settled for £6.8 there, James. But...
It's a beautiful chub, that one, isn't it?
Oh, fantastic, isn't it?
Just zeroing the scales, Paul.
Do you think you need that? Or do you think I need to zero them? Do they wind that far back? James, do you think it's going to be close?
Sorry, mate.
Do you think it's going to be a close one, this one? There's no wonder I haven't seen you all day.
Just getting my own back for Stonebridge.
Oh yeah, what a catch. Now that is how you fish the swale, apparently. Some absolutely beautiful fishing there, James.
Nearly all of them are absolutely immaculate.
Yeah. Except for that blind deaf and dumb one. Yeah.
There's one that's
which you mugged.
There's one that's been around a bit.
Yeah. He's been in the back of your car, hasn't he, just in case. Go on, let her go. I'm going to say there's going to be at least 20. I'm giving you £24.6.
Cheers, Paul. Well, Paul, I just think I sneaked it there with those few late chub.
I can tell with the smile on your face, James. Yeah, you just did me.
Well, it's sweet justice for Stonebridge, so thanks, Paul. That's been great. Anyway, more to the point,
done.
where's that pound? Come on.
Pound? Oh dear, James, I don't know. Go on then. There you go.
Beautiful. Thank you
Well
so
done.
much.
Well done. And more to the point, what do you think of your first visit to our river, the Swale?
I think it's absolutely superb. Thanks ever so much, Paul.
Yeah,
what a wonderful
great.
day.
It's good to have you
Cheers.
here, James. Yeah. Cheers.